fix this thing. How's that? All right, everyone, I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna put together and build this pencil box. Pencil box. Well, it's a little bit big for a pencil box, but it's a sliding lid box in any case. Sliding lid, very nice. It consists of one 3-inch short side and another 3-inch short side, but if you notice, this one is a little bit smaller than this one to accommodate this top area where the lid will slide into. Now the bottom and the top are the same with this rabbet cut in the corner, and that slides into this dado cut inside the box. Now first, in order to build a project like this, we have to plan it, which we're gonna go over in detail in the other videos. But first, I wanted to make the inside of the box 8x3. So on graph paper, draw it 8x3. The wood is going to be 3/8 of an inch thick, roughly 3/8 of an inch thick. Mitered corners, 45 degrees in the corners. So plan out the orthographic drawing and the isometric drawing to get all the exact dimensions of each part before we go cut them out. Now, if we were gonna make just one box, it's easy enough to do this on the chop saw. These 45-degree angle cuts are called miter cuts. We use the miter saw or the chop saw to cut those miter cuts. You always wanna make sure that they are opposite one another, okay? If they're going the same direction, it won't work. They have to be opposite, so these corners all line up with each other. So first we have to prepare the wood. None of the wood we have is this thin, 3/8 of an inch. It all comes in wide boards, 3/4 of an inch, long pieces like 8 feet. So I had to rip those down on the table saw to be 3 inches wide and then resaw those in half, which gave us 2 pieces of 3/8 inch from each strip. To get the templates, I measured out the back to be 3 inches from the inside edges like I planned on the drawing and cut it on the chop saw, and the same for the long sides to get a template for the long side. So the process is, after cutting out those 2 templates, I can go to the table saw to produce all the pieces. And I was able to angle the blade on the table saw. There's a handle on there that angles the whole table saw blade to be 45 degrees to match this corner, 45 degrees. Then I can lay the piece down on the table, and using the fence, I can line up the size that I want each piece to be based on the template, and then I can just cut a bunch of pieces out. Cut a lot of pieces for the short side that are the ones that's gonna be the back of the box, and the short side that'll be the front of the box to accommodate the lid, a little bit shorter, as well as a bunch for the long sides left and right. For the base and the lid, it's the same strips, but with this rabbet cut along the edge. Just raise the blade up to leave only 1/8 of an inch left on the top of the wood. Because if you look at the rabbet cut, this little lip on the top of the rabbet is 1/8 of an inch, a little bit thinner, because the dado cut is 1/8 of an inch wide, because that's the width of the blade. So the blade runs in there, makes a 1/8 inch groove, that's a dado, and then we leave a 1/8 inch top on the rabbet so that they can slide right together and be even on the top. After cutting the sides to the right size, I can mark out the bottom based on the dimension of the inside of the long piece, and cut the bottom out so that it falls perfectly even left and right to the box, and all the pieces can go around it nice and easy. You always want to try things out before you glue, make sure it all fits, because once you add glue, there's no turning back. So do a little dry fit, try to put it together, and if all the pieces work, we're ready to go. Now, before you glue the box, it's really important that we sand what will become the inside of the box. So the inside of these pieces all need to be sanded before you glue, because it's really hard to get sandpaper in there and sand these after it's glued. You only want to sand from here to here, this interior area right here. Do not sand this or this. Those are straight, and if you sand them and they get round, they won't glue together. But right now they're perfectly straight and flat. When you glue them together, that corner will be perfectly tight. So only sand This inside area, do not sand these. Do not sand these miters. So we clean up the insides before glue. Once those are all sanded up, then assemble the box without glue with a rubber band to make sure that it fits. And if everything's good to go, we can glue it together. Process for gluing is putting a little bit of glue on each of the mitered joints. How much we're talking about. Just like that. And then we'll take our finger, we'll just smooth it out. Nice even coverage. Making sure there's no drips, not too much glue, but you want full, even coverage. I like to smooth it out with my finger and make sure that it's nice and even. You can scrape off the excess so you don't have a big mess, but it shouldn't be dripping all over the table or you. You should just have a nice, even line of glue. If you get a little bit of glue on the box or the table, it's easy to clean up when it's wet. You just get a wet paper towel and wipe up all the excess glue. So all the pieces get assembled around the base, and then the rubber band goes around the outside. Try to stretch the rubber band between your index finger and your thumb so that you can get a really wide, like this. So you can stretch the rubber band between your index finger and your thumb, get a really wide stretch to go around the box. And if you need two, you can use two. After that's glued, you get a wet towel, wipe up any spills or messes that you might have, and let that dry overnight. Side point, it's also really important when you glue that you make sure that this opening right there is above the top edge, because if that edge is below this box, the lid will not slide in. So you have to make sure that you have that opening available for this lid to slide in just like that. After it's dry, you grab the piece of wood for the top. Piece of wood's gonna have these rabbet cuts in the edges. You wanna measure this interior dimension from edge to edge and cut the lid, making sure that the lid can slide into the box nice and easy. If you need to sand the inside of the box or you need to sand the rabbet cut of the lid, you may need to do those things to make sure that it goes in easily. But once you do that, you're good to go. Then in the other bin, there will be a bunch of different types of wood for these little filler pieces, 3/8 by 3/8, cut with the same miter cut that will then fit into that position on the smaller miter cut. And we can pick different colors to glue on there. And that's pretty simple. When the lid is in the box, you put the glue, just like you did on the miter joints, you put the glue on the back of this little piece, glue it to the end grain, the front of this lid, and make sure the box can close. And then you can take a little masking tape and tape it in place. But really critical, before you leave it to dry, make sure the box can close. Don't let it be crooked so that when it's dry, it doesn't shut. And then we have to break it off, clean it, and then put it back. So you wanna make sure this can close with that there, and we leave that dry overnight as well. After the glue is completely dry, next day, take the rubber band off, we sand the lid, we sand all the edges, make sure there's no glue residue here, because if there's glue, it's gonna look really bad. We don't wanna have projects look really bad. We want professional, we want them to look good, right? We want projects to look nice. So we're gonna sand out all the excess glue that might have been in these corners and inside here, try to clean them up. And then once the whole thing is sanded, you're pretty much done. We're gonna go over sanding in detail in a different section, so I'm not gonna go over that in this video. But yeah, once it's assembled and sanded, you've got a project. All right, are you ready to get started? Let's get started.